Welcome to episode 13 of Tales from the Scamverse. This week's story is For Sale, Clown Shoes, Never Worn. George is not like the other little ninjas. And today's episode is sponsored by Alarm Buddy. Don't oversleep. Just don't. Don't. Enjoy.
Having trouble getting out of bed? Tired of being the last one to breakfast? The last one to the office? Always the last in the morning? Well, suffer no more. The problem isn't you. No. That idea is pure poppycock, if not downright ballyhoo. The problem is your alarm. What happens if you hit the snooze button? Nothing. There are no immediate consequences. That lack of immediate and severe consequences make modern bedside alarms inadequate for today's busy lifestyle. Our team of Alarm Buddy scientists have discovered a revolutionary method to get the old blood pumping in the morning. It relies on our most primal, time to wake up and get moving, emotion. Abject terror. And that is the magic of Alarm Buddy. How does Alarm Buddy work? Your Alarm Buddy remains safely caged but within striking distance. Oh yes, Alarm Buddy can see you, and it is planning. Once your morning alarm goes off, our special patented mattress sensors will know if you are up and safely out of bed. As long as you are out of bed on time, Alarm Buddy's cage remains safely closed. You might ask, what happens if I stay in bed? What if Alarm Buddy gets free? Just don't oversleep. You might ask, what about my family? Are they safe? Don't oversleep. Welcome to a new life with Alarm Buddy. Call within the next 48 hours and qualify for a free trial. That's Alarm Buddy. Call now.
For Sale, Clown Shoes, Never Worn. This is the story of three little ninjas, George, Maya, Cole, and their master Wham. Maya was the brains of the group and often did the battle planning with Master's oversight. Cole was the brawn, a fighter not to be messed with. And then there was George. What to say about George? Well, first off, he didn't look quite like the other little ninjas. While Maya and Cole had light brown skin and dark hair, George had pasty white skin, bright rouge cheeks, and curly red hair, and a large bulbous red nose. Maya and Cole wore black ninja uniforms, but George only wore a billowing yellow and blue shirt with bright colored polka dots and large yellow and red striped pants. Maya and Cole wore stealthy split-toe sandals, but these traditional ninja sandals never fit on George's large feet. He was limited to wearing very large red shoes, which squeaked loudly with every step he took. But that was just physical appearance. It was also the way they communicated. George never once uttered a word. When he was a toddler, he found an old horn at market and took to it right away. Over the years, his master and siblings learned what he was saying by the series of horn beeps. Yes, there was something different about little George, but nobody could put their finger on it. Just something slightly less ninja. But despite this, George, Maya, Cole, and their father figure, Master Wham, got along mostly, and loved each other very much. But today would test their resolve as a family. The three little ninjas had gone to do their weekly shopping at the Caveat Emporium. Upon returning home, George, Maya, and Cole noticed something was wrong. The master was not in the garden, where he spent his mornings. The master was not napping in his bedroom. The master was not drinking tea on the porch. Master Wham was gone.
Maybe he's just at the neighbor's,
pondered Maya.
Maybe he went to the village for something,
Cole mused, but not convincingly.
George found a clue.
George had indeed found a clue. A cassette lay on the coffee table with the words, "Play me" on it, which seemed pretty self-explanatory.
It is I, Villanestra. I see you found my cassette tape with instructions to play me on it, which seems pretty self-explanatory now that I think about it. Also, I apologize if some of this comes out slurred. I just had dental work done before this recording. Admittedly, it's not the best timing, but you know how dentist appointments can be. Am I right? While you were gone, we took advantage of your absence and captured your master, my lifelong arch-enemy and deadly nemesis. Why, you may ask? Because I am a villain, and there is not enough room on this tape to tell the whole backstory. But to some, I'm going to kill your master. You see, today is my birthday, and at my birthday party tonight, after we have cake, I'm going to use your master as a piñata and split him open. Don't even try stopping me because I know you will be coming, and if we see you and catch you, we will do the same to you. Why, here he is now. We've got him tied up, and he's hanging on like a yo-yo. Goodbye, losers.
There was a pause, and then Cole broke the silence. Maya, George, what do you think?
I agree with George. That definitely sounds like a trap, but we have to do something.
I say we charge in there and overtake them.
I don't know, Cole. There are probably a bunch of them, and there's only the two of us. I said two. I know. Listen, George, this rescue is important, and we all know that. But the only way we are going to get in and out with Master is if we are stealthy and quiet. George, you are my brother, and I trust you with my life, and so does Cole. But, well, there's always been something subtly different about you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I'm trying to say is we have to rescue Master, and you're, in a subtle and vague way, somewhat less stealthy.
Language? I'm sorry, buddy, but Maya is right. We have to do this without being seen or heard, or else Master Wham dies. You need to sit this one out. You stay home and wait for our return. Dude, what did I just say about language?
Let it go, Cole. He loves Master as much as we do and only wants to help. I would be upset, too. Besides, we have a lot of planning to do and not much time.
So Maya and Cole planned out a strategy while George angrily stewed in his room. It wasn't fair. He was just as old as they were. He was just as ninja. So what if he used a rubber chicken instead of nunchucks, or threw confetti instead of shuriken? A pie in the face was just as deadly as a stupid kusarigama. George could hear Maya and Cole planning in the other room, and when the ancient shade of night overtook the land, they left the home. George watched them go down the long path from their house. The two dark shadows glided silently as death. The spirit of ancient assassins drifted with them down the path, then turned left, then stopped at the four-way intersection of 23rd and Mulberry Drive, then pushed the button and waited for the walk signal, then looked both ways before crossing. Yep, they made it to the other side of the street, and into the night wait, Cole dropped something. He picked it up. They're good. They then passed into the dark, ancient mist of night. George sat by the window and waited, and made some popcorn and waited. The minutes and hours ticked by as George munched popcorn and waited. His anger gave out and turned into unease, which then became worry with every clock tick. This was taking much longer than anticipated, especially since Villanestra only lived 2 blocks away. George knew something was very wrong and his family was in trouble, so he grabbed a pack of long twisting balloons and garden shears. It was time to get to work. Villanestra's lair was eerily quiet from the outside. The only clue that something was going on was a large birthday girl sign and inflatable martini glass on the front yard. A single guard stood lazily on the porch as a tiny squeak came from down the corner. The guard peered into the night. Under the light of a street lamp, George appeared, riding his tiny tricycle and wearing a tiny cowboy hat. George and his tricycle made it up to the porch. He dismounted his little tricycle, walked up to the guard, and tipped his little cowboy hat. The guard's hand went to his holstered sidearm, more out of habit than fear of this little guy on the funny tricycle. "Who the are you?" "I don't know what that means, dip. Now scram." George pulled a small card out of his pocket and handed it to the now wary guard. It read, "My name is George, and I'm a cowboy." "F off, cowboy, before you get on the wrong side of my gun." The guard indicated his holstered pistol. George, not missing a beat, mimicked the guard and showed his own tiny little plastic revolver holstered at his side. "What the guard began before George rolled his index finger into a circle, kind of signing to the guard to read the back of the card. On the back, in squiggly handwriting, was the question, "Wanna play quick draw?" On one hand, the guard was already tired of George, but on the other, the night had been quiet, and he was bored. "Sure, but you know my gun is real, so don't blame me when I blast your f***ing face off." George smiled, jumped up and down, and clapped his tiny white-gloved hands. "And we're not doing any of that 10 paces bullshit. Right here, right now. Go stand on the other side of the porch and nod to me when you're ready to start, you f***ing freak." George and the guard squared each other up on different sides of the porch. George nodded. Once inside the lair, it was not hard for George to find Villanestra. She was at the dining room table surrounded by lackeys and bootlickers. A side table was almost collapsing under the weight of gaudy, large birthday present boxes. At first he couldn't see his family, but then through a window he found Master Wham and his siblings, hog-tied and painfully suspended upside down from a tree like human piñatas. Resting against the trunk was a wooden baseball bat spiked with rusty nails. George's blood boiled with rage, but just for a moment. To save his family, he had to stay calm. Villanestra didn't notice him at first. These honks served 2 purposes. The first was to get the villain's attention. The second was to tell his family, Pretend you don't know me. I'm here to save you. Stay calm. Of course, the villains didn't understand his honking code.
Well, well, well. What do we have here?
Villanestra, as tall as she was deadly, sashayed up to George.
I don't remember inviting you to my party. How did you get past my guards?
As Villanestra got close, George flashed a smile and quickly pulled something out of his sleeve. With cat-like reflexes, Villanestra swiped at whatever it was George pulled out, only to find she was holding a bunch of flowers.
Oh, a birthday present for me? Flowers? Well, aren't you a little cutie? Come on in.
George beamed, smiled, and bowed low. He entertained the birthday partygoers with a juggling routine, a game of musical chairs, and used a guard's bow staff for a limbo competition. Villanestra beamed.
Oh, that was so much fun. Now it's time for cake, and after that, I have a special piñata surprise. Perhaps I'll let you get a few swings in, slugger.
She playfully punched George in the arm. A flash of darkness crossed George's face, but only for a moment. As the birthday candles were lit, George pulled out a long twisting balloon and made a poodle dog. He tried handing it to Villanestra over the top of the cake, but the heat of the candles made the balloon pop.
Fool! You ruined my balloon dog.
George looked at Villanestra mournfully.
Make me another one, now.
George immediately complied, and Villanestra smiled a wide row of yellow-stained malice.
Very good, but no cake for you. Come on, everyone. Sing happy birthday to me and eat cake.
The crowd of phonies all sang happy birthday and ate the cake. Soon after, Villanestra stood up, but then quickly fell back down to her chair.
I think it's time for piñata. Something wrong.
The last thing Villanestra saw was her guests dropping to the ground as George's face contorted into a twisted snarl. Safely back home, the ninjas celebrated their master's return and agreed to let George in on all the ninja adventures.
George is right, Master Wham. Why don't you tell us why Villanestra hates you so much? You know, before the scene change.
Well, okay. You deserve to know, and it's an amazing story. Heck, even loathsome podcast listeners could appreciate it. It all started when...
The next morning, sun lit the inside of Villanestra's lair. Bodies littered the floor, and Villanestra slumped over her dining table. But as sunlight hit her face, she started to wake up. Once awake, she found a note on the table in front of her. It read, "This is me, George, the ninja who made the balloon animals. It was no accident I popped the balloon dog over your birthday cake. That balloon had been filled with concentrated sleepium bark extract, which covered the cake after the balloon popped. I could have laced your cake with deadly nerve root, but I chose mercy. Let that be a lesson to you and a warning. If you ever come after my family again, I will destroy you. That is a promise." If there was one thing Villanestra despised, it was mercy. She stomped her feet and she let out a scream that awoke the sleeping party guests and guards on the floor in front of her. She had to get some fresh air. Villanestra walked out to the front porch, only to find the porch guards standing, well, frozen like a statue, kind of. He was covered in confetti and stood like he was about to draw his gun, but he wasn't moving. The frozen guard gave her a panicked look and mumbled something, but confetti covered his mouth.
Idiot,
Villinestra thought as she wiped off the confetti, but it was hard as plaster. She finally found a rock and smashed pieces off until the guard could talk. He shot me. Well, he didn't shoot me like regular, but all this sticky confetti came out, froze me in place.
I wish he had used real bullets, but it looks like they didn't kill any of us. Ugh, mercy.
Right? Those ninjas are the worst. The guard looked at her and rolled his eyes, which is about all he could do.
Oh my God, you're darn tootin'.
Say, if you don't mind me asking, why do you hate their master so much? Villinestra paused for a moment, sighed, and then pulled up a wicker chair.
Well, it's a long story, but it's an amazing one that even a dimwit like you, or even worse, podcast listeners, could appreciate. It all started when...
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I know, the title, Clown Shoes Never Worn, has nothing whatsoever to do with Hemingway's flash fiction, but I've always wanted to use that for a story title, and so I actually wrote an entire story so I could just have that as the title. But I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like this podcast, please refer us to a friend. And if you hate this podcast, please refer us to an enemy. And I'd love to hear from you. You can send a message using the link in the episode description. Unless you hate this podcast. You know what? Even if you hate this podcast, send me a message. Still like to hear from you. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your hands on your wallet.